Yo, what's going on, everyone? Good morning. It is Coffee with Creators, 11 o'clock on Wednesdays. That's what we do here from 42 West 18th Street, right here in the heart of the Flatiron District in New York. So if you're in New York, swing through. You're welcome to come here. That is not a green screen, actual store. I got Elsa Garrison with me today. This is going to be a good one. I'm really excited. You're going to hear a lot of East Coast jargon going on here, but we'll get into it. But before we get into that, I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsor, bada bing, Canon. CPS member right here. Getty photographer has been trusting Canon for a career, and so does a mass amount of this industry. It's probably the largest and one of the oldest brands out there, which means a lot of third-party support, a lot of amazing glass that's been evolved over years. The camera systems, their imaging systems, their color science is famous. You know Canon. What am I doing? They know Canon.
Yeah, they know Canon.
You probably got a printer. You probably got something that's not even a camera that's Canon. Go check out the link down below for everything that's going on with Canon lately, including R1, R5 II. There's R50. I mean, you can go down to R6 II. There's such a huge, robust, and the C80 that just came out. Okay, I'm going to keep going. We'll talk Canon, though, in a little bit. And I also want to thank Gotham Roasters for hooking us up today. Cheers.
Woohoo, cheers.
What'd you get?
I got a cold brew.
Yeah, I got cold brew. I'm always with the cold brew.
But I always put sweetener in cream, so I'm a toddler.
You're a toddler. You're like, I think you were actually like, can you get a sweet cream? And I think in New York, they're like,
what the heck is that?
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It's a little bit of sugar mixed with some cream. It's great.
I can't do it. I can't do the sugar in the coffee. Can't do it. But they're right on 19th Street. So if you come to Adorama or you come into an event at like a 5 o'clock class, go ahead over there, get caffed up, go say what's up to Gotham Roasters on 19th Street and tell them Adorama sent you. I'm just going to adjust something really quick. Okay. Sorry, guys. All right, let's find out who this lady is over here. Boom. First of all, hilarious. We've never met until today, which I'm actually kind of surprised at, but you have a really, really robust, I was going to say career, but a body of work from, I'll even pull up your Instagram while we talk about this, because Getty Images covers everything and anything, but you're on the drop of a hat, whatever's happening in sports, you've got to jump on there. So this is a lot of run and gun, trying to figure out your shots. But one of the things you shoot that's kind of special is the Paralympics.
Yes.
And this is, first of all, I don't think I've met a Paralympic photographer. So it's like, we'll get into how you got into that. But I mean, you're covering ping pong. I mean, you got to cover the dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a great little cafe that I found. Like, I got to Paris early. Actually, I did the Olympics and the Paralympics, and so I had some time. And I just stumbled on Instagram. And I was like, I have to go to this cafe because I have a dog. I have a Boston Terrier, and I was like, I'm going to get her a beret. And then the coffee is actually pretty fabulous. So, but I did get her a beret, and she was not as happy as I was about it. But
I mean, but so you get people like, oh, I shoot for this sport. No, you are like, I've got to go from hockey one day, and then next thing I know, I'm shooting ping pong at the Paralympics. Like, you are out there, you're having to understand the dynamics of each activity and sport that's happening going on. You're gonna have to understand the story behind the athletes. Like, you must be your head must be spinning before you even get started.
Oh,
right?
Totally. Yeah, I don't even need the caffeine to have my head spinning. So this is it's a lot of research. I think when you're covering an event that you've never covered before, I'll look at other images to kind of see like, okay, what's kind of the baseline? How do people normally cover this sport, and then how can I wreck that? If you can. So I like to at least do the research and find out like who is having a hot season. What are the storylines that got them to, say, the Olympics or, whatever event it is that I'm covering. I have a baseball game tonight. I'm covering the Mets-Phillies game 4. And a lot of the time I have a laptop near me. If I'm self-editing, I'm being edited by someone else today, which is a very wonderful luxury. But when I'm working a baseball game, I always have like the MLB kind of StatCast thing going on, so I know what's happening. I have Twitter up. I'm looking at all these different sites.
You have Twitter up while you're shooting?
Yeah, it's on I check it on my phone in between innings. It's like, okay, are there any storylines that I'm missing or that people are talking about that might be a little more quiet? And then do I have an image that represents that? And then I try and file that. So it's just, I feel like I'm definitely a whirling sort of.
I mean, bull riding in between fencing. Like,
Yeah.
how are you not schizophrenic?
I probably am. I don't know. but I think it's like what's great about sport is like it's the variety. Like if you're somebody that gets bored easily, you'll never really be bored at sport because every day you can have 5 baseball games in a row. They're all going to be different, whether it's the weather, whether the play. It always keeps me engaged, I think. And for me, I'm always looking around the field of play, just trying to see, are there quiet moments that, might mean something later. You kind of looking at, what I love about baseball is there's just so many layers to it.
Really?
Yeah. There's just like these little battles within the game. So you have the battle between the batter and the pitcher. And then, some teams really just kind of hate each other. Some managers really hate each other. It's just,
Some managers.
it's just like, I've lived in Boston for a while and covering like, back in the early 2000s, that rivalry between the Yankees and the Red Sox, that was something that I hadn't experienced. I grew up in Minnesota, and then when I started my career, I was in LA, and then I moved to St. Louis. And so I always thought that Cubs-Cardinals was this big rivalry, and then I moved to the East Coast and shot my first regular season Yankees-Red Sox game. I'm like, oh yeah, this is different. Okay.
Did you start chasing baseball as your gateway to sports, or like, did you start just shooting portraits and you're like, you know what, I'm going to shoot portraits a bit? Like, how did it happen? How did you transition to sports? Was it a specific sport?
So, like most people, I started as a high school yearbook dork. So I got into photography that way. I grew up in a really small town in Brainerd, Minnesota, and so I've lost my accent. I haven't lived there for a long time, but
No, you got some Boston coming through pretty hard.
It's like I'm just all over the place. Like my accent's like, where are you from?
As soon as you started talking and the red hair, I was like, Boston.
Yeah, I was in Dorchester for a while. That's where we lived. Loved it. And but anyway, I got into the yearbook, and I started shooting sports. My friends were athletic. I was not. So it was a way for me to share that experience with them.
Gotcha.
And then there was this mentorship program with my high school that paired me with the local newspaper photographer. And so I shadowed him for a month. And most of the time, since I was in school all day, it was sports. And so I got to shoot sports a lot. And I really was kind of hooked on just everything. And it was hard this was like the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, when I was in high school, that it was all manual focus. It was film. And so I love the challenge of getting peak action and reaction in focus and doing it with only one roll of film, which was 36 frames.
37 on a good day.
Yes.
And it was always that frame.
Yeah.
That was the special frame.
Yeah, it's like the half frame. And you're like, But so that kind of got me hooked into it. And then as I went to journalism school, I just found myself being drawn to sport. I just, the atmosphere and the energy and I also liked it because like technically it was challenging and it was very engaging for me to like solve problems. And so if you like solving problems, sports is probably your thing. So it's, every arena is different, every venue, every lighting situation is different, and you have to figure out, how am I going to make this work?
Right.
How can I cover this? How can I capture these moments? So I like that aspect of it. And I think that's what's kind of kept me going for 28 years.
And that's some 20 years, but built on a foundation of serious chops, manual focus, mixed lighting additions on film. How many YouTubers are crying about the autofocus systems these days? Like, I mean, what we have now must be like just taking so much weight off your shoulders to do so many other, like, just thinking creatively.
Yeah, and I think it's the thing that you have to be as to separate yourself, like the person sitting next to you has probably the same kit or similar. Like how am I going to separate myself if we're shooting next to each other? So that comes down to framing and lens choice, the technical things of exposure and all that fun, sexy stuff that everyone loves to talk about.
Your style, your point of view, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, changing your angle, whether it's like getting lower than your subject, getting higher, or looking at the light. Day baseball games are really great because like you can see, especially at late afternoon sun, you can kind of start playing with the shadows a little bit. I do that a lot at tennis. Here in New York, the US Open is every kind of late summer, early fall. And
we just had it.
Yeah, I just had it. I was at the Paralympics, but so I missed it this year. But
which looks way funner.
Oh, it was totally much more fun. Yeah.
I mean, watching fencing in wheelchairs must be just wild.
I had never seen that before. So this was my first Paralympics, and they bracket them. They like lock them in there. I think there was one. Yeah, you could see. So like you decide, are you left-handed or right-handed? And they like turn the chair bracket and they lock that chair in there.
So they don't have the footwork.
Yeah.
Like literally
so they're
can't
like
move.
leaning back and forth. Like you could just really see they're like really stretching, but they're like locked in. And
That's
like
wild.
sometimes like the whole platform will move if they're really kind of, dodging and
I'm
weaving.
sure, right?
But it was cool. It was really intense and it was really cool. One of my favorite things. And he, that guy was from Minnesota. Like we just kind of turned
Look at
out.
those nails, huh?
Yeah, I know. It's like the nails are cool. Like the details are always what is really cool about the Paralympics.
But that's what I actually, so I'm not a sports guy, right? But what I do appreciate about sports photographers is they know the stuff I'm not going to get to see. So I shoot a lot of portrait, but if you look at a lot of my stuff, I'm so in tight because I'm never going to see that person like that.
Yeah.
On the street, that girl's not going to let me get that close. But I also can't get that close to this guy's hand to realize how much attention he gives to his hand, how much it's important, how he knows people are going to see my hand working this paddle or this paddle.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how much you guys are like this filter. You're almost like the shellfish on there on the bottom. You know what I mean? Like,
we're just But and then I shot that with a 400. So it's sometimes those big lenses come in handy, for sure. But not everything I shoot is with a 4. But I just I mix it up and I try, at least when I'm at an event, to use a wide variety of lenses so it doesn't all look like it's the same. You want some visual variety, you want some wide, some tight, you want to get some action, some reaction, and just kind of let the environment kind of speak for itself.
Well, you guys do. I'm sorry. What I'm noticing a lot in your work is a lot of this, the foreground, a lot of like. There's always some kind of foreground to just kind of not for my eye to work through. Where were they? Not for my eye to work through.
Yeah.
But almost like just an atmosphere add-on, so I get an idea of what it's like to be there before I see what you're showing me.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really cool perspective point. I really dig it. I mean, look, how much we could have seen just a shot of people shaking hands or whatever, but like I actually can feel what it's like to focus my eye through a fence.
Yep.
I get it. Like it's actually really nice. It's not a gimmick. It's not distracting. It adds, it gives me more ambiance. I dig it. Really cool that you noticed that. This is just wild.
Yeah, that was from last year's playoffs and in Arizona. And I had never shot in Arizona before. And so I got flown in at the last minute. Like a lot of sport, this time of year, my life is, I can't plan anything.
She came here with a stack of gear. Guys, like I'm not kidding. There's a roller case in the back. She's getting ready to go shoot, right? I mean, I gotta go shoot after this as well, but she came in like, all right, let's do this. I gotta go shoot the Mets. I'm like, okay.
But yeah, and so like they have a pool out in the outfield and someone's like, oh yeah, if they win, they go run out in the pool. And I'm like, all right. And so shot the champagne celebration in the clubhouse. And then I hoofed it across that field. And like, cause this is, he was the closing pitcher for the day, Paul Sewald. And he was booking it. And I'm like going, they're all booking it. And I'm just like running as fast as I can. I'm just like, wait for me. And then, climb the wall. I'm in the pool. Like I kind of like got in the pool a little bit. My proof that my Canon Mark III, because that was what I was using at the time, because that was my clubhouse. Yeah, it's pretty water sealed because I usually Canon doesn't want me to probably say this, but when I go to a clubhouse with the old champagne and beer spray, I don't put a cover on it. I just go in.
They say it's weather sealed, and that includes.
I'm testing it, man.
Look, it's liquid.
Yeah.
What's the difference, man?
Yeah, it's just a little sticky.
Also, Canon's been around for a century. I think their stuff holds up.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say.
I just take like a damp cloth after, wipe it down, kind of let it all dry out. Everything's fine,
Oh my gosh. And again,
here we go.
If you guys have any questions in the chat, that's what we're live. You know this, Brad, what's going on? Mike Carbajal, how you doing? Marcus Beasley. You guys all shoot some various form. I know that, Marcus, you've been shooting a lot of, actually a similar style. But I totally understand the connecting to people if you're not playing the sport. I mean, my career came with skating and BMX. I rode, but I started shooting when I broke my arm and couldn't ride.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm still hanging out with you guys. I'll take this camera and see what we can get. And then you just realize it's another type, if not stronger connection than being part of what they're doing.
Oh yeah, you're documenting their journey.
And they want that.
Oh yeah.
They need it. They don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, now they do, maybe with their phones or whatever. But
yeah. But it's also interesting, too, to have athletes say, they look at a picture, it's like, oh, yeah, my form was a tiny bit off that. I felt like it was, I felt something was off, but now I can see it, which is kind of interesting, too.
Do you ever take those critiques in the back of your mind, like, oh, this picture likes when I get it at this moment or this side? Or
not really. I think,
It's your shots. Though.
But also, I take that feedback into consideration. Like, okay, well, maybe if I just kind of vary my angle a little bit, and well, maybe it is better, or maybe it's not. Who knows? But
so, who's actually sending you to these games? Like, where is it? Getty?
Yes. So I'm a staff photographer with Getty Images, and so there are, I think, 5 assignment editors that add things to my life. So, well, it's just, there's so many different sports. And so it'd be hard for one person to kind of wrangle all this stuff. But this time, like the craziest times of year are October and March, April, kind of May, that sort of, because you have, right now it's baseball playoffs, but also NBA and NHL are starting up. NFL's in full swing, college football. So, and then the WNBA is, their finals are starting tomorrow here in New York, which I'm heading over there tomorrow night. And so it's just, you don't know what's coming down. You can't really plan a lot. And the same with the spring is like you have college basketball. You just know there's some tournaments you're going, whatever region, they kind of give me a heads up. It's like, okay, you're going to go cover the regional here. And then, sometimes I'm on the Final Four, sometimes not. But if I'm not, then that's hockey playoffs are starting, NBA playoffs are starting. And it's just this whole kind of crazy mix of things. And you just gotta, keeps you on your toes, obviously, but
it's not for everybody.
It's definitely not. It's a lot of nights and weekends, some holidays, and
on the fly.
The fly. And I have a very understanding husband. We've been married for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be 20 years next year. Yeah. He puts up with a lot. So, but he also knew what he signed up for, because when we were dating, like I was like, well, see, I'm going, I'll be gone for a month. I'll, we'll have dinner when I come back, kind of thing. And, it's great to have a supportive partner. This job would be very difficult without it. But it's in, understanding family too. Like, I'm sorry, I'm missing Christmas this year, or it's just kind of that sort of lifestyle. It's kind of like that of an athlete in a way, because you're just traveling all the time and you're living out of your suitcase and you're just feet away from what they're doing in the same lifestyle. Yep.
I mean, it's totally understandable. And people don't understand how much a good photo editor will have a weight in the way this works. Like, so if she's going to like St. Louis, their job is to know what would be close enough for them to get to. Would they need an extra day? Like, it's not just like this photo is the photo. No, it's an orchestration that I don't think a lot of people understand that side of it. And, when she's getting her assignment, she goes to this room and there's these 5 shadowy figures on this giant bench staring down at her. And they bequeath her job. No, you're getting a text randomly. Yeah. We're thinking of this. You might be here and you might be in another city in a blink.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then just all the baseball scenarios are like, well, if this team wins, then you'll go here. And like this weekend, it depends on who wins the NLDS
right.
tonight.
There's so many things up in the air.
Yeah. So if let's say Philadelphia comes back and then they win, then they will start in Philly on Sunday. But I also have an Eagles game on Sunday. So the Eagles game would be at 1 and the baseball game would be at 7. And I would do both. So since they're right next to each other, I just go and walk over to one stadium. But if the Mets win and they go on to the next round, they'll start on the road. So then next week I would have baseball when they came back here for games 3, 4, and 5.
So how quick is your ingestion? Are you shooting to wire or like what's going on?
So if I'm editing myself, what I tend to do, I tag in the camera a lot just so I can find things. Because every half inning, I'm uploading my cards, I'm tagging images, I'm cropping them, adding the caption, sending it out. And so I'm trying to have like a constant flow. Last night, because it is playoffs, we have remote editor. So I have an Ethernet cable in that camera. Yep. I'm sending select images. I voice tag everything. Sure, they're probably watching the game. I have an editor. Last night, there was one fellow that was in Cincinnati and another that's in New York. So it's like, sure, they're watching the game on television, but like if you're going through a whole take's worth of stuff, it's good to voice caption what's, who's in it, what's happening, what inning is it. And so then that way they can have all that information on the fly and can get that picture out faster.
So what's it like as far as the pressure? So if you got 3 people next to you all shooting and you're in the same idea at the same moment, what's it like that you're like, I got to get this up there now? Like, what's that?
It depends on the game, but like I've gotten to be over the years pretty fast about kind of like picking those moments. And I think right now I'm just so used to it. It just feels like my job.
Do you spot the rookies and eat them alive?
Pretty much, yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I can only imagine. We were talking about this before we went live. Look, we deal with a lot of egos in this industry. You're elbowing literally for position. I can only imagine as a woman, the egos that came pushed onto that nah, this is my shot kind of a thing. Like it must have been, first of all, something to get through, but I think you're probably so dialed into what you're doing that was an afterthought.
Oh, I tune everything out, and I kind of had to. I think, you know, I figure I was going to let my pictures speak for themselves, and so like
they do. They're amazing.
I'm just hustling, and you know, and that's just I just kind of. You know, I, you know, as a woman, I deserve to be there too, you know? So I looked at it that way. It's like, I have a job to do. I'm going to do my job. You do you, boo, you know, like if someone has a problem with me being there, then that's on them. I can't carry that load. I got enough stuff to worry about.
Have you ever had a rivalry with like another? I feel like you guys, you're in the same bullpen. Like, I feel it gets a little weird.
I don't kind of pay attention to that. Even if, you know, if somebody has an issue with me, then I am pretty clueless about it unless they're really aggressive about it. I did have, you know, it was when I was in internship, there was a magazine called The Sporting News, which they don't really exist much anymore, but they would send me out to sporting events. And that's really when I got my first taste of traveling somewhere, you know, kind of figuring out, okay, how do I get there? Where do I park? You know, how do I get in? What do I need to do?
What year was this around?
This was like 96.
So no iPhone to pull out and figure things out, right?
Yeah, no GPS either. MapQuest, baby.
You used to print it out from Yahoo.
Oh yeah,
right.
Or you'd like when I lived in California, like there's like this 800-page map called the Thomas Guide, and you just like have to like look up on your 800-page map, like how the heck do I get there? That was a ride. But it was the AFC Championship game between the Colts and the Steelers, and there was a last minute pass in the end zone, and I was like using my Nikon F3 and a like old 400 2.8 manual focus lens. I was still using all that stuff until
that's a big lens.
Yeah, and I was using we were shooting film, and then once I got the job at All Sport Getty, we were film until the early 2000s. So I used that thing for quite some time. But you know, I got there was a near pass or last minute pass in the end zone, and it was broken up by the Steelers. So then they got to go to the Super Bowl. So they were doing all of this AFC Championship trophy presentation on the field, and they put up these barricades or whatever. So I had a pretty good head-on spot, and all of a sudden, a television camera person and it was like it wasn't the network, it was clearly an affiliate. They had like a cord to like a pack, you know, with like the tape in it, you know. This is old school, it was the 90s.
That was probably a Quantum.
It probably was. Yeah. And then he's just like, move it, girly, and he grabbed me by the back of my hair, like he grabbed my ponytail and threw me to the ground and jumped in my spot. And I'm just like, what's happening? And I'm like 19, like, what the hell, man?
It's assault, man.
Yeah, it was. And then like the security guard's like, I don't know. And so not the most mature thing, and probably outing myself here, but this, as they're passing the AFC Championship trophy to Coach Bill Cowher, I'm unscrewing his cable from the back of his camera, and then I just like threw it. Like I unscrewed it from the tape deck and from the back of his camera and threw it, and then so he didn't get it either, is all I'm saying. Which is not a mature thing to do, but I was 19. What do you want?
Well, he threw you by grabbing your hair.
Yeah.
All bets are off.
Yeah. And then for a while I was like, I need to cut my hair short. And I'm just like, ugh. But I was cradling my 400 and I kind of cut my lip a little bit. I was like more worried about the glass because obviously, like, well, you know, doesn't matter what happens to me. He's like, yeah, exactly. I was like, I can't afford to buy another 400, you know, like, and I had already bought this one used from somebody who'd switched to some autofocus stuff. And so I just kind of had the manual focus kit for about the first 10 years of my career.
But that's when, that's really what it was like back then. You hear stories from that era of photojournalists and how like literally hectic it was. There was stories of people spot welding cameras into place so no one would steal them.
Yeah.
Like what? And, and someone's physically moving you, you know, first of all, grabbing your hair.
Yeah.
It was not
cool. I was like, what is happening? You know?
But look, first of all, I'm glad you stuck with it because we get all these amazing images. And I think you really knew who you were and what you were going to do, and you were going to go do it. And that's so admirable. I think after a while, probably the rest of the people like, that's Elsa. She'll let her do her thing. Just get out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, you gain your respect, right?
Yep. And I think, you know, for me, like you see those scrums post game at a football match, you know, like I know that I'm a little shorter than most people out there. So I know if I'm not right in that scrum early, then I'm not going to get it. So I just got to like be scrappy enough and just run faster than the guy next to me, you know, like to get in the scrum. But it's just, and that's kind of, or anything, any sort of kind of celebration where it's just chaos. You just kind of have to have your wits about you and be like, all right, and just not to get too, not to let your emotions get the best of you and just kind of like focus on the job you got to do and just go after it.
Speaking of the job, if they're sending you all these places on the fly or whatever, if you just said, hey, look, I need to take like 2 weeks or whatever, are you in any fear of losing a slot in an editor's mind of like coming back and getting that job again?
I used to be. And I think, early on in my career, absolutely. And that was a real fear. That could happen. So like I missed weddings and birthdays and all that fun stuff just because I was worried about, missing the rotation of being in the playoffs or any of that sort of thing. Now, I think there's a lot more kind of emphasis on maintaining your mental health. So if you're like burned out and you really need some time, I can take that time.
That's great.
Yeah. So when I came back from the Paralympics, I took most of September off just because I had a really kind of crazy busy summer. It was supposed to be kind of chill until I left for the Olympics, and then life got real. And so it was like, hey, we need you to go to Texas for this gymnastics tournament. Oh, by the way, we're adding you to the eastern side of the NBA finals and the Stanley Cup finals. Oh, hey, you're going to do the gymnastics trials. And then it's just like one thing led to another. That's just the way it goes.
It's also big things like Stanley Cup.
Things.
Like it's not just like, hey, this game, this random thing.
Like go to this little hockey game,
it's real big thing. And when people go like, oh, you're going to miss a birthday or wedding, like I may sound antisocial and cold here, but it's just cake.
Yeah.
It's just cake, guys.
I know.
We'll stay in. It's fine. I don't want to wear a tux or anything anyway. Like, stop, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Don't invite me to things. Okay. That's my moral. But you're doing a job that you knew what you were getting into and you still enjoy chasing it. I think that's the problem with a lot of the old schoolers is they either one, don't enjoy chasing anymore, are tired, or two, chase it but don't feel like it's even a job anymore because they're not getting accolades or published or making enough of a living. And that's like the two things that I think is when people stop.
Yeah.
But if you're still getting not coverage, what would you call like platforming and published, and you're still getting asked to go places, how could you not want to keep going?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, I'm hitting my stride now. I feel like,
now?
Just now. It's only took me 20. Yeah. But I think like, it's like the more you kind of get the reps in, like I could get thrown into a sport that I've never seen before and I'll figure it out. I might not be the best that day, but later on that day, I'll be pretty solid.
I think if you can shoot Paralympic ping pong, you can figure out highlight.
Yeah.
I think you'll figure it out.
Or like, and someone had said, if you could shoot hockey, you could shoot anything because like hockey is such chaos. Like it's just, there's just, especially ice level, there's just, so many elements in your way and just being able to follow something that moves that fast.
Yeah, we had Jared on here, the New York Rangers photographer who's using strobe. You were talking that you still are using strobe as well and using hypersync with speedotrons.
Yep. So
let's talk about what hypersync is. Go ahead.
So, when I cover games at the New Jersey Devils, I have a set of strobes, speedotrons in the catwalk, and so the flash duration isn't super short.
She's saying in the ceiling, by the way, like it's like they're not here, like they're coming down.
Yeah. And they stay there, and most of the time they work. And then some days you have to be like, come on, little buddy, turn on. We need you to take.
Well, those packs are probably like 12, 15.
Probably 20-ish years old. And so there's 8 of them up there. And so they're just all kind of spread out around the catwalk. And normally your cameras will sync at some of them are a 1/80th, and the old school cameras were a 2/50th of a second. So the flash duration, if you want to kind of stop what's called ghosting or kind of motion blur because your shutter speed's too slow, I use this thing with it's a TT6, LPA makes it, and so you try and find the kind of right setting in the computer to like kind of figure out where your camera can sync at a higher speed, and so I've gotten it to where I can shoot at a 500th of a second with my Mark III using the TT6. And so it kind of minimizes that motion blur ghosting. And so it looks sharper.
Yeah, because there's no high-speed sync in those packs, guys. So that's not an option in a situation like this. And what people don't know about high-speed sync is because it's pushing so much power and pulsating, it's an immense amount of power through that light. It might not even make enough of an exposure. Because usually you'll have to bring your lights in closer. You can't. Yeah. It's in the ceiling.
Yeah.
So this is her workaround to basically find the peak of the sync for the duration while having the optimal power coming out of the strobe. Yep. Jeez.
Yeah. And I haven't really dialed it in with the R3s yet, so I still use my Mark III.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. And so there's a Raven, and sometimes I get it to work, sometimes not. And so for me, I just want something that consistently is working. And so I'm sticking with what I got until I figure something else out.
You ever just go like, no strobe right now, I just got to shoot it?
Very rarely, just because I have an assignment editor be like, hey, what's wrong with the lights? Why aren't you using them? And I'm like, all right, so.
You do notice it. I mean, when Jared was showing the shots, they're crazy sharper, crazy just stopped, and the colors kick hard.
They pop. Especially like, when they're wearing reds and vibrant blues.
Right.
It
against all that white.
Yep.
Yeah. But you also got, come on, it's pretty easy. You got a lot of bounce coming off the ice. It's pretty easy to get that fill and make them look pretty.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you only get one frame every 2.7 seconds or whatever.
Really got to pick it. Oh, so that 30 frames per second goes out the window.
Oh, yeah.
If you're doing this,
single
right?
frame, baby. Yeah, single frame. So you just have to decide, how early in the goal moment do you want? Do you want the peak goal or do you want the peak celebration? Because you can't have both.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you think 3 seconds is a really long time in sport. And so I try and time it to where okay, what's more important, and I try and time it for the peak action shot and then hope that they really have a long celebration at me. And usually they do, they kind of, they hold it for a little bit, but it just kind of depends on the game and how I'm feeling that day, I guess, or how lucky I am, yeah.
Yeah. And also you probably,
or what's in focus. If I know that I'm it's hard. It's too, you could be following it and they're coming in the goal and then another player's in the way. And you don't get the goal, well, then you can get the celebration. So it's just trying to time it.
So when you're not shooting hockey and you have something that's like baseball or whatever, now that we have these cameras that are basically shooting video frame rates.
Yeah.
How often are you actually using these frame rates as a professional? What is your sweet spot for frame rate?
So I actually don't use the full kind of speed frame rate. At least on the Mark IIIs that I'm using now, I turn it down to just the H, which is about 20 frames a second, maybe. I'm also timing that first shot for the one that I really want. And then anything after that's kind of gravy. I'm kind of tapping too. I'm not just
hammering down.
Yeah. Most of the time I'm self-editing and I can't look through 7,000 frames from a baseball game. I just can't. So I need it to be at least a third of that, you know? So, last night it was a playoff game. And so the bigger the game, the more you're going to shoot because there's just more happening and that could be important. And so, so last night I shot, between 3 cameras, I maybe shot 2,500 frames, which a lot of people shoot triple that.
Yeah, but your concern with the frame rate isn't so much the buffer will get jammed up and you can't shoot. Your concern is I need to get the frame I need and get it out. I can't go. That's your whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
I can't be spinning the wheel, scrolling for 20 minutes, and next thing you know, another batter's up. I'm I don't have that kind of time. So I think that's it. That's the honest truth. And there are some folks that really enjoy that the frame rate helps them, and or they can get ball on bat when they couldn't before. And I was just kind of used to the old film days of when you got okay, you got one frame to do it,
and you
gotta time it. And so you can kind of look, at least with baseball, when the opposite shoulders kind of coming in, they're going to commit to the hit. And so that's when I used to frame it, would fire it. But the very old school digital, remember the shutter leg on those things? Oh my gosh, trying to get your timing down for that.
Everything
took a lot.
Well, back then the idea was if you saw it, you missed it because you'd had the blackout. And so when I had to do fast action events the night before, this is so nerdy, but I would play something on TV that I could then practice my timing with and see if I got the shot. And you get used to the fact that I don't want to see it. Yeah. Right. You get this
you want the mirror to, But now with mirrorless, you see it and you're did I get it?
And it took my old school brain so long to get used to the confidence that I got it. I was wait, did it? I saw it though.
Yeah.
I was what's going on here?
Well, and also too, you don't want to look on the back of that camera so fast, and then you're oh, so then there's still a moment going on. Ooh.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, look at that.
Bunch of aliens. It's my screensaver.
But but you also you want to make sure the moment is complete. There's a lot of folks that miss the great celebration that's slightly delayed after an action moment because they're so excited to see if they got the play. They're looking at it and I'm dude, the guy's screaming right now.
Yeah,
kind of need that.
But I think that comes from people that, first of all, don't have the confidence they got it and that they're doing a job. You can tell a hobbyist when they constantly have to check if they did. Yeah. Right? They're not focused on what's happening here. I'll check it in another minute.
Yeah.
I think you can see that right away. Do you ever feel you're around too much of that and you're just killing it?
I just kind of tune it all out. Most of the time I'm not. What's really weird though, now that we're all doing the mirrorless cameras that are mostly silent.
You don't hear it.
You don't want anyone shooting anymore, but with the DSLRs or like in the film days, you knew when somebody else was shooting. And, if you're shooting next to somebody who is kind of skittish and you're, like all of a sudden you just go and you just fire off and then they're like, what are you shooting? What are you doing? And, now it's like, it sounds weird when you hear that shutter and you're like going, what the heck are you shooting? But it's camera shame, I guess. Like, I don't know, like you're kind of like looking at like, what are you even doing?
Is there anything about like where we're at now with the silent that you feel you've gained advantage of? Like, do you think that like the athletes were aware of the shutter and things are different now? Do you think that they're just not, you just disappear even harder and you're even getting more moments?
I think, well, certainly in golf, that's, because like the shutter, you couldn't shoot until they made contact with a ball or they would, their caddy would throw things at you or you'd get yelled at or get the stare.
They throw you out of there. You lose your job.
They throw you out. And so you never shoot in their backswing. Now it's silent. You can shoot in the backswing. And so you get a whole different set of pictures at golf that you couldn't get normally before without having either like a blimp, which was like this sound kind of proof thing over the cameras, or having a silent shutter. I had read somewhere that at Wimbledon, now you can, if you don't have a silent shutter, they're not going to let you shoot near the court.
I believe it.
So, I mean, quieter sports like that need concentration, like golf and tennis,
chess. I shoot a lot. Competitive chess is dynamic, guys.
Yeah. It's a cutthroat. Those kind of things, you can get moments that you couldn't get before because you had to wait until they made contact with a ball.
Well, now the issue is warping, right? Because now, yes, you are able to shoot because it's silent, but if that rolling shutter is too slow, the golf club's all bent or the ball's
there was like
weird.
the early mirrorless cameras, like the golf club was like a U-shaped thing. It was
wild.
It was crazy.
And you never saw that before. As a photographer, you were like, wait, what is the problem happening?
Yeah. It was like, wow, those clubs really bend now.
I remember seeing bike wheels turn into eggs and I was like, something's wrong.
Or like the football NFL was just like this weird.
It got round. You're like,
wait, what's happening here? Is that a basketball? What's happening?
So that's like the next thing now is what we're seeing is with the stacked sensors is faster rolling shutter, which is leading to as like a byproduct of faster frames per second as well.
Yeah.
So we're getting to a place where we're basically shooting video as photographers. So do you think you're going to be starting to get asked to do video clips and they'll just pull stills when they want, or?
I don't know if we're there yet. I think because I shoot primarily sport, there's a lot of issues with broadcast rights. So there's no way I could shoot video during competition. We are kind of dabbling in a little bit of video with doing feature work or things that aren't in the realm of being on television.
Brad's asking in the chat, is like, knowing you only have one frame, instead of thinking you've got 30 frames per second, which is such a power move, and the real pros think that way, but knowing you do have 30 frames per second is just saving grace. So I guess it's just kind of like a security blanket, but you don't look at it like I needed to do it.
Yeah, I mean, because when I started, like the fast frames were like 5 frames a second. You were like going, oh, wow, I'm going to get 5 frames a second. So that's kind of what I grew up on. And so I'm kind of like used to that. And so, and also like when I would, freelance for the Associated Press when I was in college in Minneapolis, I'd shoot the first half of an NFL game and he's like, okay, you got 2 rolls of film.
Yep.
Don't blow it, you know? Yeah. And I got to get through like an entire half on 2 rolls of film. So you're like going, is that frame worthy? I don't know.
Not even that. When I, back in the day, I scraped, I saved, I got a used, banged up Nikon F5, 8 frames a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how many shots I missed for the magazine? Changing rolls because every 3 seconds was a roll of film basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a second, I can't shoot like this. I thought it was going to make me better, but it wasn't that. And then another thing that happened was I tried getting to a job and TSA wrecked my film going there.
Oh yeah.
So then I only had enough money to buy like not even a brick, like half a brick of film.
Yeah.
So then that's it. So then I was like, well, I'm throwing those specs out the window and shooting single frame because I just need the frame.
Yeah.
I don't need a whole roll of sort of the frame.
Yeah. You just kind of, you have to time it that first frame is the one you want. And anything after that, you're just kind of watching the moment grow and just kind of picking off.
So how do you feel about pre-capture? Do you think that's like anything?
Well, I used the R1 at the Olympics and I turned off that pre-capture just because I just didn't want all those frames.
You weren't shooting for the pre-capture though. You know what I mean? Like, I think you were getting shots you didn't expect to get.
Yeah. And so. I was like, what is this? I don't want this. Sorry.
What is this?
What is this?
What is this? I'm not shooting this.
I was like, you barely you hovered over it and it was like going already. I'm like, Jesus.
Right. I bet you there's
I'm sure there's a use for it. But for me and what my workflow is and what I've got, the way I've gotten used to shooting, it hasn't made it into my toolkit yet, or something that I would need. I guess it would be a very specific sort of thing and be like, okay, we need like a full sequence of a pitcher throwing for whatever reason.
I think it's for unpredictable.
Yeah.
You're not sure, but it got it because you weren't ready.
Yeah.
And a lot of people use it for things like wildlife. You don't know what that thing's going to do, but it got it before you saw it, so you're okay. But I think what the moral to this is, and I think we're on the same page, it's not the spec that gets you the shot. It's your habits using the tool that gets you the shot. So if your habits are to lean on pre-capture, that's you. Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
I've never grown up to shoot with pre-capture.
Yeah, it's like this was a new experience for me, and I was like, oh no, I can't.
Marcus, I don't have that F5 anymore. I kept the F6 though, but
I have my F3 still because it was my very first pro camera that I bought. So
I keep the last generation of everything. So I still have my last film, my last DSLR. It's like a weird thing with me. Like I'm like, I can't let this generation go.
I kind of wish I had kept my 400. I did sell it. The
amount of money that's probably going for right now.
Oh, I know, the old school manual focus one. It was like the focus ring was like butter. You don't know. Well, and I used to like to practice my follow focus. Like, can you imagine now, like going to stand next to a highway with a 400 2.8, like focusing at cars coming at you? Because that's what I would do, or just like things running at me. Just
smart though, just
to kind of like get the kind of rhythm of it. And when I would shoot hockey, I had an old when I shot Nikon until like 2006 when Getty Images bought us gear and it was Canon. So I had all my old Nikon stuff until then, and I had the old Nikon 80 to 200 that like kind of zoomy,
the push zoom,
the
dust collector,
the
dust collector.
Well, and it also, like when you first got it fresh out of the box, it was like stiff. You had to like kind of
work in the grease.
You had to like work the grease in so it would finally be smooth.
You heard it like when you zoom.
Yeah, and it was like your arm hurt after, like what is this? What am I getting into? This is heavy.
But it was less costly.
It was, and I also like early on shot with a lot of primes, and then there was like a period of where zooms were all the rage, like fast zooms, and then now I'm kind of getting back into shooting primes again. Like I really love my 51.2. Like I'm kind of surprised. I was like, oh, why didn't I use this more often? And in the 85 and a 135, like kind of feeling kind of old school. It's kind of mixing it up a little bit.
Well, I think that's why the Canon 20-70 f2 did so well.
I love that lens.
Because it's like a zoom prime.
Yeah, and it's heavy as heck.
I call it a manatee. It's like a manatee like sat on your camera.
Oh, yeah.
And now you have this amazing lens. It's beautiful though.
Oh, it's great. I use it when I shoot Knicks at Madison Square Garden, and I'll use it probably tomorrow night with the Liberty. And I shoot at f2. Like, what's the point of having all that weight if you're not going to shoot at f2?
Right.
And the bokeh is really lovely.
And all that light collecting. I mean,
all
your
great.
ISO drops and
especially like some of these buildings. It's getting it's more, the lights are more geared for television, and it's even, but the quality is a little bit darker. So you're shooting at 4,000 ISO, but if you can shoot at 2,500 ISO at f2, even better. So
is there any kind of focal lengths you're hoping that get evolved after all this, after everything you've been through? Is there some mythical lens you're hoping that comes to transition?
Well, I would love it if
here we go.
Canon made an RF version of the 200 f2, but that won't happen.
I
still have my old one. I'm not giving it up. It
the
still
Nikon
works.
one?
No, the Canon one.
The Canon one.
Yeah.
Because every system, if you talk to old schoolers, I think old schoolers, they always call out a 200 f2. There's a Nikon unicorn one. I almost bought a broken one. It's so legendary. And there's every system has it.
Yeah.
There's something about that focal length. We're live right now. So the schedule's right there. Thank you.
No worries.
We're live. So you are welcome to come to the store though. What's up, Omar? It's still going.
Yeah.
He was
live.
He was here like in the first 10 episodes. This guy.
There you go.
Give it. We only got like a few more minutes, but so I think it's a focal length that one, we don't really see a lot of outside of a zoom, right?
Yeah.
And two, when you have that length with that shallow, you get this transition of focal plane.
Yeah.
That is really special.
It's kind of magical. And like, I love it for tennis. It's a great tennis lens because the 7200 is perfect for, match point or whatever, but the background is just too present. And if you want that background to be gone, shoot it f2, and it just has a really lovely feel to it. And it just, I can't let it go.
Well, one of the cool things about sports is that you have all this mass of people watching said sport. And then when they become an abstract painting in the background, it's really beautiful. I mean, if you I'm stuck on pro wrestling right now, but
no worries.
If you watch WWE now, the pre-match footage is done on a cine camera at a very shallow depth of field, and it looks
really cool.
Like you're about to get into something, and it is just, everybody's blurred and they're so sharp, and like actually you did this when you do shutter drags and shallow depths and stuff, you really do. Where is it? There was one you shot that was like a moving wheelchair basketball.
Oh, so that was what, like,
is it this one?
I don't know.
Right, but it's like when you get this abstract look to sports, it's really special. Jamie Price does it a lot with auto racing.
Yep.
And I just saw it on your page, but I mean, look at this. Like, yeah, I get that that's people, but she's in her own world, man. And you got it. She's cut out of that. It's so nice.
400-2.8 at 2.8.
At 2.8.
Like most of the time, I'm shooting wide open with all this stuff. So that was with my Nikon 400-2.8 manual focus, and that was the film days, and that was my very first soccer match that I ever covered.
You can see all that green reflecting back up.
Yeah. And and that was manual focus. So, there you go.
There's your flex. No, but I mean, look at this. Like, look at that. You know what I mean? Like,
so that was like last year, or was it last year, or no, 2 years ago, World Series. And it was a rundown, and everyone around me was grabbing their 70 to 200s, and I stayed on the 400. And I kind of like the random floating limbs thing. Sometimes you can kind of,
I'm a limbs guy.
You can kind of get burned, and there are some people that have said, "Oh, you should have gone looser," and I'm like, "But everyone else went looser." And and sometimes if you don't think fast enough to switch your cameras, or the camera in your hand is the one you got to use, and you don't want to miss the moment. And so for me, I when I saw the rundown kind of happening, I thought, okay, I just want to get a tight, nice, clean, bokeh out image of the tag, and then it just kind of turned into something else. But I liked, I liked it. So
I don't shoot a lot of sports, but to me, you can't go wrong with getting detail.
Yeah.
Even if it's a big moment, there's something that I'm not, like I said in the beginning, you're not able to see the squinting face, all that stuff. Like, that is money to me.
Sweat flying off, like grass flying off, just, yeah. And I tend to shoot tighter for better or for worse. Like, I think,
the limbs really frame it nicely.
Yeah. It's just, I kind of like that. And even when I shoot basketball, like, basketball is just, usually when they're going up, driving up the net, it's just kind of armpits. But when I like I like those ball scrambles, or when like the defense is really on a player, and like you just have like these random limbs just blocking the player, and so I try and look for that, and you shoot tighter to do that. I mean, there are some folks that'll shoot loose and crop in, but I like to just try and get it right, full frame.
Do you have any favorite venues to shoot at?
I think it's gotten to be more of the people I can visit in the city, like the friends I can go see. It's like that kind of becomes more of a social thing.
Like, the architecture of this stadium is amazing. Nothing. They're just like,
yeah, I just want to go be social. I do. It took me a bit to kind of understand like the charm of Madison Square Garden. Just the kind of like the crowd at a Knicks game, whether they're good or bad, it's like a different vibe either way, and so it's kind of electric that way. When I was in Montreal, I've shot a Canadiens game. It's a pretty rad environment as well. I'm trying to think of places that are, I think the Men's World Cup in Doha the last time around was 2022. I was pleasantly surprised at like how packed everything was.
Yeah.
The Women's World Cup in Australia was incredible. Like, just, the crowd, the Australian fans showed up, for rando teams. Like Ireland had like a packed stadium, and they would, bring Ireland flags, but still wearing the Team Australia jerseys. And it was just a cool environment. And I think it's when you get something where the fans are that engaged with it too, it's just, you can't help but like kind of pick up on that electricity.
Well, I think they're finding a lot of bookings in towns that are underserved for certain events, so that they're getting these like rambunctious, like, we've only got this one shot, we've got to show up kind of a thing. And you get such an energy. When I was I'm native. So when I was a little kid going to Madison Square Garden, I didn't realize how small it was compared. everybody's on top of each other, and you're all like, you are the crowd. Like,
Yeah.
and I say that meaning you're like, this person, you don't know them, you're together for
Yeah.
that night, and you're screaming at whatever's going on. My dad took me to monster truck rallies all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started going to other places. I'm like, wow, there's so much room here.
Oh, it's weird, the new places.
And you're so far away. And then,
Yeah.
so I'm basically watching a giant TV. What is the point of this? But Madison Square Garden, if you watched any like old WrestleMania or whatever, like you're literally over
like,
and
on
looking
it.
down. It was so cool.
And it's cool, like even like there's boxing events on the theater
Yes.
side of it. That's even more intimate, and it's really cool. Like
Yeah.
I kind of like those kind of off the wall, sort of cool, sort of places, you
How do
know,
feel
or
about
like
Barclays?
you know, I like Barclays. I mean, like the environment's fine, but it's a newer place, so it has a different vibe than like you know
history.
a place like Madison Square Garden or the Old Forum in Los Angeles. Like, and I think MSG and the Old Forum must have the same architect because the ceiling looks very similar. You know,
They bought off a shelf.
yeah, exactly. Here you go. And I just think it's cool, like going to baseball parks too that are a little older. Like I love Fenway Park.
Oh, yeah.
I was in Boston for 7 years, and you know, just kind of seeing that old school 1912 baseball park was cool. I love Wrigley. I haven't been to Camden Yards yet, but maybe someday.
Are there any like stipulations on being able to film your own BTS of like how you're doing it? Like, can you do some social for yourself about the backstage areas or anything?
Sometimes, yeah. It kind of depends on the event, what you're doing. There are some that, you know, their credential says no video of any kind, even, you know, BTS or anything like that. But I'm getting better at doing that.
You should get way better. Like, you're gonna look. I know you got the old school chops, but like, you're gonna finish out your career and be like, man.
I should have shown how I put up a net cam, you know.
Well,
Like, yeah.
you know, hey, Bergman does a pretty good job of showing. David Bergman, if you're watching, it's really amazing because there's only so many. There are a tiny percentage of people that are going to be doing what you do,
Yeah.
and how you do it. But also, don't you want to journal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting better at it, but like early on, there's just so much, you're just trying to like survive the moment, you know, and you're just like, oh, I got to get here. I got to do this. And you just are so focused on getting the job done that you don't document your journey.
Yeah, but I want to see that stadium sucks because the stairs are too steep and I'm dragging my gear. Like, I want to see that stuff. I want to know.
Yeah, I
you
should have
know?
done that in Paris because like, so.
Oh, that must have been
Oh,
wild.
yeah. So normally at Olympic Games, there's like kind of what they call Olympic transport. So there's like a transport hub. You hop on a bus and you go to the venue. They drop you out right next to the door, which is really great if you're hauling a bunch of gear around. Paris decided to be a little more sustainable, which is admirable, but like, it's not the most accessible city. It's a little older.
On top of itself.
Yeah, and it's like, so very rarely are there train stations that have an escalator or an elevator. And so like, I'm dragging all that stuff with me, and you would get like, they'd give you, there was an app, and so you could say, oh, I need to go from here to here, and they'll tell you the best route. It was kind of like the Google Maps of Paris. And but there's still, you'd get off the train and then walk 20 minutes to the venue. And then so you're dragging all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the cycling venue was an hour train ride and then a 25-minute walk to the velodrome.
And Paris trains are old, man.
Yeah.
They're like rubber tire trains or something, I think.
Yeah.
And they're only like 2 cars. It's not like a New York subway that's like 8. It's like
Yeah, and
2.
they're not as wide as like I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first time I was in Paris was like, you know, in 1999 when, you know, we went on a girls trip, and then I remembered the trains being so much bigger, and I'm like, oh, these are tiny. You know?
Well, back then you were, oh, it's so romantic. And then he's like, I'm carrying 3 giant primes. I
Yeah.
got to get over there. It's not so romantic anymore.
Yeah, well, and then
It's
like and every day I had a different adventure, and so it was like, okay, I was really mindful of how to pack my kit because I didn't bring too much extra because of the weight, and how could I pack it into a bag? It's not like the days where I'll bring a Pelican case and I'll bring my think tank.
Yeah, but why can't you go? Because you're CPS. You couldn't walk up to the cannon area and be like, give me all the primes.
Well, but then you'd still have to carry them to the venue, you know, like
But aren't they at the venues?
no, they're only at the press center.
Ah.
So they couldn't be at like every single venue. It'd be too much. There were so many and they were so spread out. Like they couldn't, there's no physical way to have all that
Boy, do
gear.
they flex? They're like, look at this giant shelf of stuff for our
Yeah.
photographers.
Yeah, but all the you know, the main camera manufacturers that were loaning out equipment were all at the main press center.
You know what they got to do is loan you out a human to
Yeah.
help you carry stuff.
Exactly.
That's what.
That'd be nice. Can we have a, you know, can you bring a friend to carry your
Imagine
stuff?
there's a caddy system for
Yeah.
photographers.
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah.
You know what? I bet you someone could capitalize on
Yeah.
this.
We need to work on that.
Yeah, get an app. What is
Yeah.
this? They're laughing in the chat. Yeah, I'm a monster truck fan. My father's a mechanic. What are you kidding me? Of course. Gravedigger for life. What are you kidding me?
Yeah. Come on.
It, it's not even a sport. It's just so loud and messy and huge. Like if you're a little kid, it is the biggest thing you'll ever imagine.
Yeah.
You just can't get over it. And
It's like the tires are massive. It's just ridiculous.
it's just so cool. The sound, you feel it. Like it's almost like a concert, but I don't know. It's hard to explain. I've been to one since I was a little kid though, so I couldn't even talk.
So like in the Midwest where I grew up, demolition derbies were a thing.
Yo, demolition derbies are nuts.
Yeah.
And they are so filthy.
Oh, they're terrible. And they're like
the smell?
The smell and then like this like you're just in some random track in the middle of nowhere in like a field and the oil smell and just like it's magic.
My father built NHRI dragsters, right? So
Yeah.
Top Fuel. So he'd take me to the track and they just burn for a quarter mile
Yeah.
and then it takes a while for things to clear out. But
and then you get like the little flecks of rubber tire on you if you're shooting nearby.
well, I mean, it was too little to shoot, but like I was by there and like it actually, the smoke settled and then it became like a soot, right?
Yeah.
Because or they used to do these thing called jet cars.
Yeah.
Where they actually put a jet engine on a smaller car. And you'd know they were doing the jet cars because you'd be outside the track and the smoke would be coming over and down. You'd be like, whoa, what is happening? I'd be like, I'm probably getting brain damage at
Yeah.
like 12 years old, but that's why I am what I am.
Well, and then so when I first started, I did get, I was working at my town paper when I was like a junior in high school, after I did my sort of mentorship. And there's a raceway in Brainerd called Brainerd International Raceway, and they had a lot of drag races there. So I was it like the Force family? Like they,
the funny cars.
Yep. Funny. Yeah. I just remember I was like, what is this?
Castrol GTX was this sponsor.
Yep. And then
forever.
the parachute would come out. And you're like, oh, dang, this is kind of cool.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much science goes into it. But then you're like, you look at the guys who drive like, well, let's go. Like, how is this the same people? But
yeah.
It's all good. Every photographer should buy those Boston Dynamics Robo Dogs. That's kind of. Have you ever seen one of those?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's literally a dog that's so well engineered. I'm sorry, it's a robot that's so well engineered that the mannerisms are the same as a dog, the way it moves. But there's no face.
Yeah.
But if you're going to Comic-Con this month, you'll definitely see some Robo Dogs there. I see a lot of Getty guys at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And that's why that's when we were talking earlier. I'm like, I wonder if you guys know each other. There's so many like Getty
Yeah, we're all
photographers.
very kind of
Segmented.
Yeah. So I just do sport. And I think in the 28 years I've been on staff, I've done 2 news assignments.
But there's no online group for you guys to just have a forum or
not really. And then sometimes like there's like holiday, get-togethers or like the summer party, but then I'm always doing something. Like it's like I got a soccer game or a baseball game.
I've got to work.
Yeah. But because everything I do is at night. And then they're like, oh, hey, let's all get together for the, holiday party at like some rooftop on a Thursday night. And I'm like, yeah, that's all. I got to be at MSG for a Ranger game. Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, they don't ask me for the dates, but no, it's really fine.
Yeah, I've never been a part of Getty at all, and I always wondered if there was like a community to it. And I always looked at it like
it kind of is. I mean, it just, it kind of goes in spurts. But I think, with an election year, all the news photographers are really busy. During fashion season, all the fashion photographers are really busy. Entertainment, it never stops. I think at the Olympics we had like Arturo Holmes, one of our entertainment photographers, joined us. It was his first Olympics, and because of there being a lot of celebrity element, I guess, in the attendance to the game, so he was there to kind of document that. And so it was nice to not have to kind of worry about that and I could just focus on the sport at hand because when I'm at MSG, I'm just there by myself, and you kind of have to cover everything. Like, you're covering the action of the game, but also like the action kind of around in the stand. So I'm always just kind of looking around. Yeah. Especially if somebody who hasn't been seen in a while is out and about, and you're just like, oh, okay. And it's not my favorite kind of photography, but it needs to be done. So you got to do your job.
Is there a Getty segment that you would want to trade with someone for a day just to try something out? Is fashion always been in your brain?
I think that'd be kind of cool, but I bet that's kind of a lot like sport, because it's just fast and it's coming at you, and you just got to, get your shot list in your head. It's like, I can get full body, 3/4, shoot the details next,
Right.
So it'd be kind of cool.
Is there a segment that you want to jump into? Is there something that's been always interested you? You're like, oh, that'd be cool.
I don't know. I think I'm so engrossed in the sport aspect of things. Like does anything else exist? I don't even know.
Everything else is so boring.
Yeah, it's
in
so
comparison.
slow paced.
Like, what is this?
Yeah, I know.
I don't care if that dress is 10 grand. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be kind of cool. I don't know. I'm sure like the awards red carpets are very similar,
I think those are so much more obnoxious.
Oh, they're terrible.
Oh, and like you've got to step on the drama so that you know what to shoot, and then people are like, that is little. I've had to shoot that stuff.
Yeah.
People are resting on you and
so
shooting,
crazy.
and I'm just like,
That would drive me nuts on
I
it.
could just put your rib,
Or just like a nice sharp elbow.
At least I feel like that's so much more guerrilla than the way you guys have to. You set up your spot.
Yeah.
You're running, but like,
Yeah.
I hate a red carpet. I don't ever want to shoot it again.
It seems chaotic.
And
yeah.
then your strobe is next to your lens, and you're just
and you're just like, yeah.
Over here. Can I get one? One without the boyfriend, please. Great. Like it's always the boyfriend you don't need. Like
That reminds me, you ever see that movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yeah, of course.
Like,
yeah.
Matumbo, out of the shot, please.
Oh, we just lost him, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Have you ever had a backlog of sports that like something big happened modern and they could pull from the archive and like that kind of helped you?
Well, when Kobe Bryant passed,
Right.
there was this picture. His last All-Star game was in Toronto, and if you are around the sport enough and you kind of know that pregame he'd go do shoot-arounds with his daughter Gigi, and so there's this picture of him hugging Gigi, after he's kind of getting done with warm-ups, and that kind of had resurfaced after they had both passed. And
does that affect you at all? Like, do you get paid again or anything?
no, I got paid a salary, so
you got shot. You shot it. You're done.
I shot it, I'm done. But like it's kind of interesting to see, like it's sad in a way that like when someone passes, then like images of them have a renewed kind of interest. But it's I feel like when I'm shooting, I feel like my job is to document the sports history of that day, and so that's how I approach it. Just so we have these moments to remember later on.
And then what about, let's say, for example, you want to put a book of your work out. Is it owned by Getty?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's, the joys of being a staff photographer. I get paid a salary and it's very stable. And so, but with that, I get, health insurance, 401k, and an equipment allowance. And in turn, I give up my rights to those images.
But you got to go shoot for 20 something years.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, it's pretty great. I feel very lucky. I feel very well supported. Certainly with equipment wise, but like, just our management team and stuff too. Like if there's something I want to try and shoot, we try and make it work out. It's pretty cool that way.
That's awesome. Well, we're actually at time. So guys, if you want to stay up on Elsa's work, boop, there you go. Instagram it up. Let's get this woman a following so that she can get into, I don't know, posting some journalist of what it's like to be in this world. I think it's crazy. I don't think there's kids in this seat that probably the industry is going to change so quick, so fast. We don't know what's going to happen. That like the way, manual focus and be like that's not even a setting anymore.
Yeah.
Like
what is that?
What you turn? There's a thing that moves. Like no,
I still do it. Like snow games. Like if it's snowing really hard, like the autofocus, like
it's a little weird. Yeah,
it's a little weird. So yeah, there's been a few games where I'm like on
any system, by the way.
Yeah, the manual focus. I'm like, it's muscle memory's coming back. So.
Well, I want to try to get a panel in here of some of the sports stars like Ed Mulholland and Jared. So maybe we can get you come back here, do
That'd
a
be
talk,
great.
maybe share some work. So stay up on that, guys. Dan will be live tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern with, I think it's how to create like super soft light or something like that. Ooh. Come hang out at 5 p.m. if you can. We want to fill the chairs as always at 42 West 18th Street, but you can check that out online. Of course, follow Elsa. I want to say thank you to Canon for sponsoring. Let me do all the graphic-y stuff. Bada bing. Canon, it's a legendary company in this industry and in life in general, and got them for caffeinating us today because you can tell how fast I'm talking. We both got to go shoot now. We're doing different things. You're doing some cool stuff.
I'm hauling it to City Field. So
City Field, man.
There we go.
Unbelievable. Guys, I hope you guys are great out there. If you enjoyed this and you're new to this channel or this series, there's like 40 of these episodes out there. So go check them out, backlog it up, play it in the background while you're working. I'm sure Omar's here. Omar Gonzalez was here. He was a past guest. But for now, you're going to go sign my wall.
All right.
We're going to go get to work. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great day, all right? Bada bing.